So very quickly, I've been doing sort of BA kind of role for about 20 years. I came across the Guilds in 2005, and I've since then used Planguage in all my projects. I haven't been hired as a Planguage expert, but I've used them when the client has not imposed any project lifecycle on me, which is every time actually. So this little case study, it's called Price Sentinel. I haven't really got time to go into too much interesting domain stuff, but essentially it was a proof of concept both of a new technology platform, which was part of the reason why they hired me to help to integrate this new platform and build on top of it, and also they wanted to come up with a proof of concept so that they could actually get some early feel whether this technology would actually help them in their real business. So it was actually kind of a prototype, quite an agile type idea project. And I also suggested that we run the project as a Planguage type Evo project as management, so we're prototyping both a sort of slightly different way of doing things in this business area, technology, and to actually deliver some real value to stakeholders. Essentially, in terms of the way I ran the project, I kind of did a 1 or 2 week project startup phase, which resulted in what they call the project initiation document. So that's kind of summarise what we've been doing in the project, who our stakeholders are, who the values are. That was something that they had to do in their life cycle, so I did one, but the contents of my project initiation document is very different to one that they usually use, and I'll show you the sort of table of contents, which is all the stuff you've been learning yesterday and today. And then when we got into the project phase, we sort of very iterative. We did some further requirements and design idea analysis. We then did step planning and prioritisation, and then actually did the actual doing stuff, which was normal development, test, measure, deploy, and reiterate. This was actually the kind of paragraph, the sentence we started off with. So create a new Price Sentinel component that can detect if the bank's published foreign exchange quotes go off market, and then to immediately cancel the current quotes. I'm not going to teach you FX in about 3 minutes I've got, but essentially it's exactly the same process that you've learned. Is exactly what we did. So we looked at, there's some needs there. So where's the requirements? That's a great, we did this earlier, right? So there's a whole mixture of solutions, requirements in there. So there's some needs we need to create. They want to detect if the bank starts publishing bad prices, and if that happens, they want to take some action. So there's some requirements to do some things there. There's some design in there. We want a Price Sentinel. I don't know what it is, but just give me a Price Sentinel, something with a label on the box. Right? So there's a mixture of solutions. And there's also some indication, now you'll learn what the scale and the value is, there's something can vary, right? So there's some functions, detect, but there's also some values of that function, like when we detect something, how bad does the price have to be before we have to take action? So there's some variability there. So we've identified some values related to those functions that we need to quantify. And another one is immediately. So if you have to take some action, how quick does that action have to be before it's of no value anymore? So one great technique is the 5Y technique. Have you ever heard of this? It came from Toyota. So I think I've been trying to do that at some of the workshops. So I asked them, why do you need something called a Price Sentinel? Well, it's to stop bank publishing bad prices. Okay, thanks. Why do you need that? Because if we don't publish bad prices, we won't lose money. So the bad price is almost by definition a trade where a price where we'll lose money. So why do you want to stop losses happening? Well, it's because it was a relatively new business area for the bank at the time, so e-trading rather than traditional voice phone trading for the traders. So it's important that this new business unit could demonstrate to their management that they could do this safely. So at worst case, we won't lose any more money than the traders lose, right? So that was kind of like a tolerable level. So it was like effectively saying we can at least demonstrate that. Why was that important? Because it meant if we could prove to senior management that we can at least won't lose money, they'll then give us resources to then go to the thing that we really want to do, which is stretch and do all the interesting goals that the business want to do in terms of expanding the business. Right? But they wouldn't allow us to do that unless you at least show some level of safety. They're a very conservative run bank. And why was that important? Because all their bonuses were predicated on achieving those goals. Right? So there's like a chain of 5 whys that get really more insight into what the context behind this project is. And but you stop asking why at the point where you as a project don't have an influence. So I've got no influence over their bonuses, whether they'll be awarded and the size of them as part of this project, so you stop right at that point. So that's an example where you can use something like 5 whys. You don't just sit there going, why? You sort of try to do it diplomatically or over time, but the whole point is you're trying to drill down to find what really, what their needs are.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask that on there.
Yeah.
How close to verbatim were those answers to
Pretty
the
close,
questions?
actually. Yeah.
But how long did it take the real process of asking why?
Probably a few days.
Sometimes you ask why and you get an answer back
yeah.
that you're not quite sure how that fits in,
process,
and you have to go
so
around
probably
it.
over 2-3 days, I would imagine that. Really, it was in this 1 week product initiation. Right, I'm going to zip over all this stuff about how we wrote the requirements and how we rewrote them, and we started underlining things and defining things, exactly the same process that you've just been covering. We split the requirements into functions, values, constraints, resources, as you'll start to learn. So functions, and then in fact I wrote a function map. This is actually not from this project, another one I did, where because I wrote the functions without any solutions, I actually wrote this manually in Visio. It took me a couple of days. It was valuable to do, but over the life of a 2-year project, this didn't change because the functions were the same, right? In fact, foreign exchange hasn't really changed in 300 years when they were doing it in Lloyd's coffee houses. What has changed, all the qualities around foreign exchange, the speed, the volume, right? The functions, but that gives the context about this is the function map of our overall project. So we've got more functions here. Then we looked at performance, the values, right? So what were our ambition levels? So we took the headline or ambition level. So minimised time taken to detect that bad prices happened. And we started looking at scales, right? So trying to show the iterative way that we wrote the scales to start with ambition level, and then we improved them and refined them. And in fact, this is a final one. So this is actually one of the scales off the spec, kind of changed a little bit. So we've got an ambition, the scale, time in seconds. We've got benchmarks. So we knew another bank had published bad prices and lost money, so we put that in as a context. The past, the goals, and the stretch goal. So the trader said, look, we think no other bank in the street has got as good as this, so if we could get roughly close to that, even that would be really cool. We weren't committed to that, which is why that's not a goal, that's a stretch goal. Yeah. So you can see how if you're using Microsoft Word, that's how one of your performances might look like, your values. Okay, then we've got constraints. You can read through this yourself, and design ideas. So then we brainstorm some ideas. This is all done at the same time as all the other stuff, but we keep them separate, right? So there's a separate part of the document. We had a list of backlog of design ideas which are separate from the requirements. Okay, and then at the end of that week or a couple of weeks, we had this PID document which had the executive summary, the 1 page. They didn't have time to read the rest of it. Who the stakeholders were, what they wanted, what the functions were, constraints, resources, an initial list of design ideas that we had at the time, and across sort of like defined terms. That kind of set up the project. So if you're doing a more language orientated project, you might want to think about that kind of thing as an artifact for your planning phase. Then we went into the Evo project, so looking both at what functions we were delivering, covering, and what value improvements we were making. So functions are really easy because they're written as binary. The function is either there or not in the system. So you just have literally a yes, no, these are the steps of the project, and you can just tick them off as you go through, right? So it gives you a view on where the functions are. You can't forget the functions. Most projects, if they track anything, only track the functions. They don't even think about the values. So then the values are the things that I think Kai's going to show you next, is the value decision table. So here's our first sprint. We were looking specifically at the value. When we know something's gone wrong, how long does it take for us to take corrective action? That was the value we decided to focus on first. So there was the value. There were some budgets that we had for developer, tester, project manager. And here are our three strategies for step one that we started to evaluate from our design idea backlog. And it turned out that this first one had something like a 5-to-1 ratio, looked like, of value to cost. In fact, this one was going to get us something like 50% to our goal for only costing 10% of our budget. It was only going to take half a day each of the developer. In fact, what this was writing a little back script to sit on the system admin's desk, so that when the trader figured out something wrong, they could shout across the trading floor to him and say, "Hit that button," and they could hit that button. Right now, before we did this, they had to, you would have to log on to that machine. The system admin would get one-time password. We had to phone up, and then so it'd take about 10 minutes to be able to kill that rogue process that was giving bad prices. So it took us about half a day to do this. At the end of the first day of the project, we'd written this back file and we stuck it on the system admin's desktop. In 4 years of this existing system before I joined, no one had ever thought of doing that. Right? And I swear, my assumption is that they didn't think of that because they weren't focusing on what they really needed, because they hadn't looked at the values and what was really important to them. Right? So that's what I was talking about. Looking at the values actually gives you space to innovate, think outside the box from just looking at software or looking at new technology that you might have to do. And we did a test, and it was improved it by from 10 minutes to 4 minutes. So second step, we plug our status back into our table. So now we're at 4 minutes, and we still want to get to 1 second. And then we go through the cycle again. We spent a bit of our budget, half a day each, so lost a bit of our resource. And now we reiterate, we do the cycle again. Right? But here the point is that the first cycle was actually 2 days long. It wasn't a week or 2 weeks. So you don't have to be, rigid to say you must deliver every week or every 2 weeks. If you've got something that can deliver real value, you don't sit on it for 4 days. Just say, right, we'll deliver that. Call the end of our step, reevaluate, and move on. Right? You're really agile. So updated the values. We then started to take, so we're going to decompose this one a bit longer. So we actually ended up decomposing this one into three 2-week steps. And we had this idea of a front room and a back room. So the back room was going to take 6 weeks to deliver this new part using this new technology, right? But while we were doing that, we also then tried to improve that little back script. It took us a day to write, so it took us a couple more days to make that a bit more sophisticated. So we were really trying to think about, even though we're now working on the interesting new technology, can we still deliver some more value that isn't even using the new core technology, but will actually help the stakeholders to give us some more credibility at the start of the project. So we did that. Each step, those 2-week steps got delivered on time, and in fact, the outcome of this part application of new technology was actually used for real. We didn't plan it, it just happened 2 days after we went live. We actually had a real production problem, and it took them 10 seconds to make that. Once they realised that they were putting bad prices out, it took 10 seconds to shut the thing down. So in that step, we've gone from 4 minutes down to about 1 second, so 96% improvement, even better compared with the 10 minutes we were at the start of the project. So the traders and the business were really happy about that. But at the end of that, we'd used up all our budget. Okay? But hey, guess what happened? Because we delivered and provably delivered to stakeholders some improvement that they hadn't had before, they gave us some more money. So they said, keep going on this proof of concept, this looks really cool, let's try some more. So we started again, drew up another value table, did some more steps. It doesn't matter the problem. And we did that for about 4 more weeks, and then suddenly they changed and said, right, stop. You've proven enough for this new technology, that's great, let's stop the proof of concept, let's now plan and we'll go and buy the technology for real and we'll do it for real. So there's no point in continuing. Why continue when you know you've reached your goal? Yeah, so why continue? So in 10 minutes, that's really quick. So we start from a one-line requirement. We use language to capture the requirements, recognise the different type of requirements. They have to be treated in different ways. We separated design from requirements. We selected designs by evaluating their likely impact on the values that we wanted to target. We then implemented using EVO iterative steps, and then we stopped when it was good enough, because we wanted to go on to do something more interesting with our budget. Yeah, that's it. That was a. I'm not making this up. It was a real project. And just to show you, this is my website, rsbatechnology.co.uk, and there's a blog. There's a blog page there. I think it's March 2014 is the link to the much more comprehensive case study paper on that. You might even learn a bit about foreign exchange trading. I'm sure you always wanted to know that.
And any questions to Richard about the case?
So you said this was the proof of concept, and you said, okay, now you've proved the concept, so let's build it.
And then I spent the next 8 years working on that project.
So what I hear quite a lot from people who do similar things is people say, okay, thanks for the proof of concept, we'll keep that, thank you.
Right.
And they just stick with it forever because it appears to work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe that wouldn't have been a bad outcome in a sense,
Right.
but that is always the danger I hear with any kind of proof of concept work, is that people just like, they don't realise that it was it seems to work. So
right. I mean, in this case, the proof of concept was a very small set of stakeholders for one very specific. That function map I showed you. It's kind of like one of those little functions. You spent the next 8 years building out all the other functions, so it wasn't an either or in that case.
So was it as much testing you as it was testing?
It was a proof. As I said, it was a proof of concept of the team's ability to use the technology as well as the technology itself, as well as the methods around it.
But in the final solution, did you actually use what you built in the proof of concept?
Yeah, we did.
Or was it started?
Yeah, the actual the little bit of technology we used on the new platform is actually, I think, still live now. So
that batch script is still on that person's desktop.
It probably is. Yeah. Actually, no.
Whatever you do, don't delete that.
No, that